You call yourself the relationship astrologer.
Sure do.
What made you want to use that? We know we just had KJ Atlas, an astrologer, on the show, and she was
Yeah,
like,
I
no,
know.
thank you. No, thank you on the relationship stuff. I'll send all those clients to you. But
Yeah,
she focuses on business and locational, but you love the
perfect.
relationship stuff. So
I do. I really do. I was born with Venus on top of my sun and Venus on top of my moon. So this planet of love and relationships and how we gravitate towards one another with our heart energy right on top of both my luminaries, right? So I don't think obsessed is too big of a word to use. I am obsessed with relationship astrology, like looking at two individual charts, two individual people, and the story that they create when they come together in union of relationship, no matter if it's romantic, if it's platonic, if it's a family member, if it's your best friend, if it's an ex, it's like really what was it? What was the purpose of this connection? What was the work of this connection? What were the gifts? What were the challenges? Um, it's so juicy and rich to me that I can't pull away from it.
it's
You know,
addictive. It's
it
addictive. It's
is
like a good
addictive.
romance novel, a really
Mhm,
great movie or show
mhm.
series. I totally agree. And maybe this is because my Scorpio Venus is on top of my Scorpio moon that I
Yes,
am.
that's right. You have that too, that signature, just like me.
Yes, I do. Share
Yeah,
with us. You are my fellow Sagittarius sister, but what's the
I
rest of your
am.
big three?
I am your Sag sister. I am also a Sagittarius moon, so a lot of Sag going on, and I have a Leo rising, so a shit ton of fire. However, it's all drowning in the water houses.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think that water element really sort of tones down the fire a bit. I can still get really fiery.
Yeah.
I get really excited. The Sag in me gets super excited, and I got jokes for days. And like I'm really drawn to um I have this like giggling in church sort of personality,
Yeah.
if you will, which comes from my strong Sagittarius, but then all the like the fourth house, all the Cancer energy. Um I just want to cuddle and I want to take naps and I want to eat cookies and like tell me about your childhood. How are you feeling? What's your
Yeah.
relationship like with your mom? you know.
Yes.
So that
Yes.
comes in too. Yeah.
So I know I'll never forget when I first was introduced to you through Deborah Silverman's program. I
Mhm.
was like, just that Cancerian energy just oozes out of you. And I was like, I
Really?
want that. I want that nurturing energy.
Yeah.
And so when I took your first course, I think it was Synastry, and you shared your chart with us that you were all fire. I was like, okay, I officially don't understand astrology because that is
Yeah.
a water woman. What?
Yeah, that's what I thought too. I was like, why is my fire so mellow and so calm? And it is because it's all in that fourth house of Cancer. So I'm kind of like a Cancer in disguise, but also I have Neptune on top of my sun, which gives me a Pisces signature too. So I have like, so yes, I'm a double Sag with a Leo rising, but I'm like a Cancer Pisces in disguise. It's really weird.
Oh, I don't know
Yeah,
my own chart. How funny as astrologers, we never look at our own charts, do we?
I exactly.
I have to pull mine up to go, do I have anything on my sun? Oh, I have Mercury on my sun. So that kind of gives me like a
Yeah.
Gemini flare. Yeah.
Gemini flare, Virgo flare at times too. Um, yeah, absolutely. So yes, you are a Sag, but you're also like a Gemini Virgo touch to that Sag.
Big time. I just want to
Mhm,
write. I want to
mhm,
freestyle. I want to
mhm,
talk.
mhm.
So Sag.
Yeah, yeah,
And
absolutely.
My Sag sun's in the house of Libra. So here we go.
I know that.
Love the relationships.
Yeah.
That's yeah. I love all those experiences. And I want to ask you too, your name, Malika.
Mhm.
It's so beautiful. Is there a cool story behind why your
No
parents named
one's
you
ever
that?
asked me about my name before on a podcast. That's hilarious.
How? It's beautiful. It's like a stage name, but that's your real
Oh,
legal name.
that's my real legal name. My parents were hippies. I mean, what can I say? They had a friend, not even like a close friend, just an acquaintance, I think, who had that name, and they loved it, and they gave me that name, and it's Arabic, even though I am not Arabic, and in Arabic, I think I was told it means the queen. So there's that. And I've always felt a little bit like I have to step into that. I have to wear those shoes, like that's a lot of pressure.
The fourth house stellium was like, I want to stay home. I don't want to
Yeah,
be a queen.
exactly.
Go big or go home. I'm going home.
Yeah, that's right. And then my Leo rising's like, put that crown on. And then my
Yeah.
fourth house is like, no, I'm gonna take a nap instead.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, wow. So when you say your parents were hippies, did they study astrology? Is that how you got into it?
No, they didn't so much study astrology, but there was a lot of a lot of earthiness and a lot of spirituality in the home, especially for my mom. So she always had like tarot cards or oracle cards. She always talked about like the angels and your guides and like, just this power of your thoughts. And all of that was very much a part of my childhood and my home life and how I was raised. Um, and we always had these huge gardens, and she always grew our own food, and everything was always made from scratch. And like now I think back on it and I'm like, wow, that was kind of cool. But when I was living it, like I was the kid that would go to school, and at recess I'd pull out like my super healthy homemade bread that was like as hard as a brick, and and it had like sprouts and alfalfa sprouts and avocados on it. And then there were these other kids that had like bagels and cream cheese or peanut butter and
Pop
jelly.
Tarts.
Yes, and Doritos. And I was like, oh, like I wanted that. And yet my mom was so hippie and so like back to earth that, yeah, everything was super healthy and everything was homemade.
Was
And
she a Virgo?
no, she's a double Libra, a Libra sun, Libra rising with a Taurus moon. So that Taurus moon really gravitated towards gardening and the earth and what we can get from the earth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Mhm.
That it's almost like your parents could forecast the future, because I feel like that meal is what a lot of kids nowadays are being
Mhm.
given. The
Yeah.
sprouts, the avocado.
Yes. Yeah. And she was like way ahead of her time. you know
Whoa.
um and we always had like her hippie friends over, and it was just it was a sweet childhood with her. She's like my best friend, and it was we were outside all the time. I was constantly, and we lived in the middle of this like huge vineyard as well in Northern
Oh,
California, and I was just like free to just go run and play in the gardens and in the vineyards. And I would come home at the end of the day with like sticks in my hair and
oh,
you know,
the
dirt
best.
on my overalls. And yeah,
Simply the
very
best. And
cool.
then you look at kids today and they're just like picking fruit on a vineyard on an iPad for a
I
video game.
know. I know.
Oh,
I did the real thing. Yeah.
wow. And that just sounds so lovely. And do you think that that's a manifestation of your fourth house stellium? Just a lot of
It
energy and
could
love at
very well
home?
be. Yeah, it could very well be. With my mom,
Yeah.
um, she was definitely like she was my parents, but we were also like friends,
Yeah. Yeah.
growing up. My dad was like the strict, stern one. But me and my mom, we were just like friends, and we
But
played and we were free.
was he a Capricorn? Like, what's dad's chart?
Oh my God. First of all, he wouldn't give me his birth time until recently, just because he knew what he
What
knows
you would
I do
do?
for work. He knows what I do for work. And he didn't want to give that to me. And that's really such an encapsulation of who he is and our relationship dynamic. But when I found out, so he's a Gemini, but he has a huge stellium in Taurus and a huge stellium in the 10th house. So he has that Capricorn, that
There it is.
stubbornness of the Taurus,
There it is.
right? And it just described he was like such a disciplinarian, such like he needed authority, he needed the power, he needed to say what goes. Um, and he wouldn't budge from that. The Taurus was so stuck and rigid in
Yeah.
that 10th house. And in my opinion, it was a lot of the like shadow sides of those signs that sort of came
Mhm.
through, was my experience of him as a father.
Yeah.
Um, and but it's just so telling when I finally got that birth time and I plugged it in and I saw his chart.
Right. I
Yeah.
was just sharing this in one of my, I think it's my New and Good Monday newsletter,
Mhm.
that I was sitting at my granny's dinner table one
Mhm.
evening, and she knows I'm an astrologer and she's cool with it. She knows she's a Leo. She's like, I don't know what that means. Just a
Yeah.
cute Midwest woman.
Yes.
And I just asked her, I was like, Granny, I'm so curious. I have my mom's chart, but I would love to see yours. And so she
Mhm.
dug through all of her attic files and she was
Yeah.
like, well, is it on my birth certificate? And I'm like, yeah, go find it. And
Mhm.
she did. And she found it. It was like 6:53 p.m. And she was fascinated and she couldn't wait till I pulled her chart up. And then when I did,
Mhm.
to have hers, my
Mhm.
mom's, and
Mhm.
mine blew me away because
Yes.
you can see
Did
the
you see
lineage.
similarities?
We all have our sun in the seventh house.
That's right.
And we all have the same exact experiences where we got married to the wrong people when we were young because it was an escape out of something uncomfortable. For my
Mm.
grandma, she was raised by a single mom who was extremely religious and lived with nuns. And so she,
Mhm.
as a Leo who wanted to be creative and wild, yep, nope,
Yes.
got beat with rulers, literally. And so
Mhm.
she met a cute guy, didn't knew from day one, not it, got
Mhm.
married to get out.
Wow.
My mom got married to my biological father to get
Mhm.
out of her family situation.
Yes.
I got married when I was super young because I wanted out of New
Mhm.
Hampshire. I just wanted to get out of New England. It was never
Mhm.
for me.
Mhm. Seventh house, the house of marriage, the house of
Yes.
others, the house of relationship, the house of escaping what's not comfortable and
Oh,
trying to get into, like, if there's disharmony, if there's awkwardness, if there's tension, like, nope, we're going to ignore that. We're pushing things under the rug in the seventh house, right? And just going where we're agreeable, we say yes to everything, even if it doesn't serve us.
oh
That's the
my
more
God.
shadow side of the seventh house. And yeah,
Oh,
using marriage as like an escape mechanism to avoid um,
yeah.
the harsh
Yeah.
reality of things. Yeah.
Oh, just bless the person I was married to in my 20s. He's a
Mhm.
really lovely guy, Aquarius, sun and moon.
Mhm.
He was fun. He was different. He was
Yeah.
cool. But, we were both so young. And if he were here, I'm sure he would just echo everything I say. But we were just so young and we both were kind of trauma bonded and we're like, let's get out of our family dynamics, get
Yeah.
out of here.
Yeah.
But you're right. Because when I got married to him, we moved to North Carolina where we knew nobody and we were just in our perfect little quiet bubble.
Mhm.
That was
Mhm.
it. Cut
Mhm.
the outside world in, but also
Yeah.
never grow together, never have conflict, never have difficult conversations, just
Do you still
easy,
keep in
easy.
touch at all? Do you hear from each other every once in a while or not so
We
much?
used to. After we got divorced, it was, happy birthdays and
Yeah.
how's Jeffrey the pug doing? And
Oh.
but you separate. And
Yep.
when I
Yep.
first started dating JL, he knew and he was
Yep.
happy for me and even said, like, I hope I find this one day. And I was like, you will, like, you're such a great guy. You will. So
Yeah.
it's that our composite chart. I should have given you his stuff. We have a Cancer rising.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like you've told me that before.
We have a
Yeah.
Cancer rising, and
Mhm.
every single, I'm not kidding, I should pull it up to show you every single planet, like
Mhm.
12 in the
Mhm.
sixth house. In the sixth house.
Wow. That's so much sixth house energy. Yeah,
Too much to where it's not
too much.
sexy. It's not
Mhm.
love. It's two
Mhm.
kids trauma bonded, just kind of taking care of each
Yeah,
other,
yeah,
you
exactly.
know? So always wishing each other well, but
Yeah. And then my and your composite chart, I don't remember what we were doing, but we pulled it up at some point. And what were we doing? Maybe we were doing like a live together or something. I can't
yes,
remember.
yes.
Discovering that we were sisters in a
Yeah.
past life, which feels so resonant to me,
Mhm. Mhm.
And those are the types of things you can find in
Yeah.
relationship charts. Like what are the past lives that these two have lived
Yeah.
and where are they coming from and growing into this lifetime. There were so many family sister signatures in our composite chart. It was like undeniable.
Yes. And I said that on the live when we were talking about it. When I take your courses, and you're
Mhm.
so busy, you're leading a group of like 20, 30 people. And so there's just names in the chat. But every time
Yeah.
we would end a course, like after spending a week together every day, I was like, no, like you're my family. I miss you already. It was
I
just this
know.
heart chakra of warmth
Yeah.
feeling towards you. So I was like,
Aw.
that is my teacher over everybody.
Yeah.
I don't,
Oh, you're so sweet.
yes.
And then like outside of the courses, we've just developed a really sweet relationship, friendship,
Yeah.
bond, you and
It
I.
it
I
feels
love
effortless. It's so bizarre that we've never met in real life.
I know. It feels like we have.
Oh,
Like for
100%.
me, it feels like we have. But
Yeah.
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 But
You find those friends where you can just show up unannounced and just make a cup of tea and just sit
yeah,
and stare at the trees
yeah,
together and not say
yeah.
much. No
Yeah.
pressure. That's us.
Yeah. That's us.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, you guys can just tell us a love affair we have of being
I
sisters in a
know.
lifetime. We should explain that in relationship astrology, there's many, but for this episode, we're going to talk about composite charts and
Yes.
synastry charts. So you
Mhm.
beautifully explain it. What is the difference between those two?
Yeah, I get that question a lot because it can be confusing. So, synastry charts are two individual people's birth charts, like pressed up against each other, if you will. And it shows how you affect one another, the way you trigger one another, the way you love one another, the good feelings you bring towards each other, the challenging feelings you bring towards each other. It's really how you affect one another. But the composite chart is also a relationship chart that is birthed. It's its own entity that happens when you put two people's charts together, you weave them together, and it births a third chart. And that is the chart of the very relationship that we're looking at.
Yeah.
So with synastry, there's not really a third chart birthed. It's just like pressing two charts up against each other, and like these are the pokey points and these are the loving points. And the composite is like its own entity of the relationship itself.
Yeah, I find that the synastry charts are really therapeutic for couples or
Mhm,
any type of relationship,
mhm.
romantic or platonic, where
Yeah,
you can say, hey, your strengths are this, work on
yeah.
those, use those. And
Mhm,
your weaknesses that just pay attention
yep,
to are these. Whereas composite still has that flavor, but
mhm.
so many people who love psychology and spirituality, they want to know, why did we come together? Like it was
Yeah,
so synchronistic how I
yeah.
met you. It would just be cool to see who we were in a past life and kind of where we should go.
Yes. And so
Yeah.
you can see, I love that part of the composite. And I think I teach that in the composite chart karma course. It's finding the past life of the relationship and how to move into like the new current flavor, not get stuck in the past life, not ignore the past life, honor it, be in reverence to it, and then gracefully like incorporate and pull in the current life too.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So we
JL
don't
and I
get
have used
stuck in
our
the past.
composite. JL and I have used our composite chart, which we can pull up and
Mhm.
discuss, dude. Like I have so
Yeah,
many
I have it
times.
here on my screen. Yeah.
Oh, let's look at it.
Yeah.
Pull it up. There's a placement on it that's
Mhm,
our Mars in the 12th house in
mhm,
Gemini,
mhm.
right on our rising. Do you see
Yep.
that?
Yeah.
I
He's
feel like
staring
that
right
is
at me. Yeah,
it's big, it's bold. And I
it's
always
big and
feel like
bold.
that's how this relationship could end. We have to pay attention to
Mhm.
this because it's right, the 12th house of
12th
endings.
house of endings. Yeah. Um, so that's a huge signature in your composite chart with JL. Mars on the rising sign in Gemini, Mars is coming from the 12th house. And this is the relationship, right? This is what you guys create by being in connection. You guys create Mars on the rising sign. So, first of all, Mars is a part of how people see you guys, out together. So Gemini is how people see you guys. Let's just start with the rising sign there. You guys could be a very fun couple, a very intellectual couple. You guys have something to say, something to teach many people, the community, right? Gemini more than one. So like the community, the town you live in, your neighborhood, whatever it is, there's a Gemini feel to your relationship. It could be like there's a kid-like energy to the two of you when you guys are out together. There's a playfulness, there's a silliness, there's a sense of adventure and never like being in the same spot for long, Gemini, the wanderer, but also very intellectual, being very curious together, asking those bigger questions, being in constant communication. Like you guys walk in as a duo into some sort of a gathering and you put off this Gemini feel. You guys are fun.
Yeah.
You know how to like flip from flower to flower and like engage in that way. Now, Mars comes into the mix and it makes you guys very charismatic, very dynamic. There's a sexiness to the relationship too, because Mars is also our sexual energy, right? And when it's conjunct the rising sign, it's almost like it's on display in a way. So, and what I mean by that is that we can feel the magnetism as you guys can. We can feel the charisma behind this connection. Um, but it can also feel like for you guys intense. It can feel very Mars, like there can be competition that comes up in the relationship, or or like butting of the heads, or challenges, or the warrior is brought out. Now, are you guys fighting on the same team for the same thing with
Yeah.
Mars, or are you fighting each other? And
Yeah.
it probably shifts and takes on different shapes. Like
Yeah.
one week you guys are fighting together on the same team, the next week you guys are fighting each other. That's the flavor of Mars. Nothing holds still, right?
Yes.
It expresses its energies, the high road and the low road at different points of life.
Yeah.
How do you feel that Mars on the
Ooh.
rising?
Ooh. Well, isn't it in the 12th house?
It is in the
Does
12th
that
house, so it's a little bit
did
hidden from you.
yeah.
Mhm.
But I will say when friends or family come to stay with us, they feel our intensity. And I think for people who have much lighter placements or not so Scorpio or Mars,
Yeah.
they are like, whoa, you guys need a break from each other. But we're like, this is normal. Like
Mhm.
I think we freak people out because we're so transparent with each other.
Yeah.
A lot of people in relationships have private lives that they don't share everything. Maybe
Mhm.
this is our Gemini too. We share everything. I have
Mhm.
had my mom say, "You guys tell each other that?" And we're like, "Yeah."
Yeah. Yeah.
Whoa, that's a little too much TMI. And we're like, no, this is my best friend. And
Yeah.
then when we do, I call it debates because I'm blessed that JL and I never get in like knockout, drag out Aries style fights. We don't.
Mhm.
But can we debate each other with
Yeah.
calm voices? But you can
Mhm.
tell that Mars is just going boom,
Yeah.
boom. Oh, it's like Gemini with a little Aries
Totally.
in there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and people are like, "What?" I remember one time we had his boys and we were getting in one of those debates and I was like, "We're not doing this in front of the boys." And he
Mhm.
said, "No, they need to see what a healthy
Mhm.
argument and making up looks like." And I was
Mhm.
like, "That's actually really wise of you." And so we
Uh-huh.
had them on our laps. They were playing with toys, but we were just doing our debate a little calmer.
Yeah.
And then we actually resolved it in front of them and they sat
Mhm.
there the whole time. And
Mhm.
we think that that was a really good example of showing them conflict. Doesn't
Yeah,
have to
that's
be
beautiful.
aggressive.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Fighting with love, Mars in the 12th house. Fighting with love, right? It's the house of unconditional love. You put the warrior, the fighter in the house of love.
Yeah.
You're fighting with love. You're putting down the sword and the shield, and you're fighting with love, you're fighting for love.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, you're fighting with compassion and empathy for the other.
That resonates so heavily
Mhm.
because a lot of the people who listen to the show know we're dealing with co-parenting. We're dealing with
Mhm.
lack of family support on both
Yeah.
ends. It's a really difficult, interesting dynamic our relationship has, but they always say, "I couldn't handle that. I
Mhm.
couldn't do that." But
Mhm.
we fight those difficult things with this
Mhm.
unconditional love for
Yeah,
each other.
it's
It
true.
rules all. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's so strong because it's linked to the rising, right? So it's really loud in your
Yeah.
relationship
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
him.
Well, we
Yeah.
love to be an example to
Mhm.
people. Like, hey, love can conquer all. It's not just a hippie saying.
Mhm. Yep, that's
It
right.
should really can. We have Chiron in the first house, Chiron the wound.
Chiron in the first house. That's right.
I remember in class you said anything in someone's first house composite they wear on the relationship like a tattoo.
Yeah. You wear it on the sleeve, on your sleeve, right? So it can go one of two ways with Chiron. It could be the healing aspects that this relationship brings in. You guys are making that public. You guys are publicly sharing
Yeah.
the wounds, the grief, the pain of being in partnership, being in this relationship, but also the healing process that takes place, the soothing that takes place, the we were just talking about Chiron in this webinar I was doing before I came here, and it's like accepting the invite to Chiron. And for you guys, it's a huge part of the relationship. It's how the relationship is seen, right?
Mhm.
Accepting RSVPing that this relationship can bring up a lot of triggers and a lot of wounds, and it has the potential to heal, and the rest of us can see it. It's in the first
Oh,
house of like what you show, right? The first house and the 10th house
yeah.
um, are really public placements in a composite chart. And so it is like that tattoo you guys wear. It's the tattoo of the relationship is Chiron. And so it could be the sweetest, most soothing, most healing relationship, and it could be the relationship that shows you the wounds and the work and the triggers, and
That
the
has
things that come up.
That's resonates so deeply because
Mhm.
that's been our most frequent comment or compliment from people is I've never seen two people fight so hard for a
Mhm.
connection.
Mhm. And then
Is
that
that Chiron in the first?
yes, yes, and the whole all those planets shoved into the second house in this chart too. It's like, because those are opposite houses. The first house holds Chiron, and then opposite is the stellium in the seventh house. You guys are fighting for the relationship, for the
Yeah.
connection, for the partnership, for walking side by side. There's some sort of a fight, a wound, a healing that takes place in pulling from that seventh house of partnership.
Wow. Yeah, because we have Saturn in the seventh house, don't we? And
Saturn
Saturn
from the
is
seventh house,
yeah.
Saturn on top of your descendant. And as you know, I call Saturn super glue. When there's a strong Saturn in a composite chart, and I consider a strong Saturn if he is on the descendant, like you guys have, or on the ascendant, or on the luminaries, or on Venus, right? When he's like playing with something in the chart and he's not all by himself, that's a really strong Saturn. So super glue of what? Super glue of the actual relationship, because he's glued himself to the descendant, which represents the relationship.
Relationship. Wow. I didn't even catch that in a row.
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
that why like him and I can fight or just go through a little break from each other? And then I'm at the grocery store and I'm like, look at these chips.
That's the super
like
glue. Yeah.
it's like, oh wait, we're
Yeah.
fighting right now, but I forgot because you're my friend and I like to share little things
Yeah.
with you. Look at
Yeah.
this squirrel on the tree. And he's like,
Yeah.
oh wow. And don't we
Totally.
have a bunch of planets, like 4 in our 5th house?
Listen, you have 5 in your 5th.
Oh, we have the same thing in our synastry as well. All of our planets fall in that 5th house. So
I remember that. I remember you sharing that. And the other thing that really stands out with that 5th house is that they're all personal planets, which makes it even more personally felt. Pluto's in there too, though. So you got 4 personal planets and little outer planet Pluto came in there just to create some more intensity.
yeah, like we need any more.
Yeah. But you have the sun, the moon, Mercury, Venus, and Pluto all in the 5th house. And I call this the party house. This is the house of love. This is the house of romantic love. If you think about love, you can go to the 5th house, you can go to the 7th house. The 8th house is like deep, deep soul connection. But the 5th house carries this dating vibe with it, where the beginnings of a relationship, where you get excited to see somebody, or get butterflies in your stomach, or you shave your legs for that person, all the things we do when we first meet them. So the 5th house sort of holds that kind of energy. And to see this many planets in the 5th house, it's like a promise that the romance is there and it has longevity because it's solidified into the relationship chart, right? So this romance, this dating vibe, this idea of being in love and being in love with loving each other, being in love with the relationship does have those flavors. And Pluto being there, it brings in the intensity of that too. Now, the other parts of a 5th house, a packed 5th house and composite chart is, there can be a little bit of drama sometimes with this relationship. And we can be we can be theatrical. It can be very egocentric, like the relationship feeds the egos at certain points. It can also be very we need to pay a lot of attention to the relationship. A thing that would really hurt the relationship is, in times of fighting, if one person ignores the other, or if one person just stops
Whoops.
talking to the other. Yeah, exactly. Because the 5th house is like, pay attention to me. Don't ignore me. The worst thing you could ever do to a Leo is ignore them, right? I mean, that would be like, the Leo needs attention, even if they won't admit it.
Yeah.
And so it has that energy there. Do you feel both? Like
Oh,
the good parts and
100.
the hard parts?
1,000,000%. Our relationship has been extremely dramatic, both because
Yep.
we're two wounded people like everybody else trying to have a good
Mhm,
partnership, but
mhm.
also because of outside influences. Like
Yeah.
on my end, I'm a public figure somewhat. And so I've
Mhm.
got so many opinions from people who
Yeah,
are obsessed and love us and look up to us,
of
to people who
course.
have said from day one, I don't like him. I don't think you guys are a good
Mhm,
couple. And
mhm.
then co-parenting
Yeah,
drama.
yeah,
It's always, we're in a good place now, but in the
yeah.
beginning, it was just waiting for the next shoe to drop at
That
all
that's
times.
that's the other thing I was gonna bring in, this much energy in the 5th house, children are involved.
Oh,
Children are
yes,
involved,
they
whether
are.
it's your own biological children, whether one is pulling in children from previous relationships into the partnership you guys have now, whether you guys are working with children, children are involved in
Yeah.
this particular relationship, and Pluto in there could make it intense and
Yeah.
can make it, very meaningful,
Yeah.
but also like working out those more intense dynamics.
Oh, it's fascinating. I already pulled my composite with his two boys.
Did
Oh,
you?
that would, we need another hour or two for
Yeah.
that. But it's so cool. Me and his
Yeah.
oldest have a huge stellium in the 7th house. Oh, it's
Oh.
super glue.
Do you hear that background noise?
What is
Lucia,
that?
that's my dog.
She wants to be in it.
She's sleeping, but she's sleeping against the wall and she's like dreaming in her sleep and her little paws are scratching the wall
She's chasing a squirrel.
and tearing my wall apart at the same time.
Well, they're used to hearing Jeffrey snoring in the background. So, what would an episode be without dogs?
Oh my God. Lucia. She's a Scorpio. She has a Leo moon though, so she, speaking of needing attention.
I love it. I love it, love it, love it. I pull Jeffrey's chart all the time. Sagittarius,
Hmm.
Aries moon. Yeah, he's a dick.
Hmm.
Point
Double
blank
fire.
period.
He and
Yes.
I would get along really well.
Yeah. Yes, you would love him. You would love him. Oh,
Yes.
I just pulled up the composite now that I'm looking at it. I think the
Mhm.
only thing in me and JL's composite that when I was studying, I was like, woo woo, was our Venus is squaring Neptune.
Venus squaring Neptune. Let
Do
me
you see
find
that?
it. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I see it. So
Yeah.
Venus squaring Neptune in a composite chart. This is like pretending things are a certain way when they're not.
Yes.
It's Neptune coming in and saying, we're going to make up a story. We're going to create a fantasy. We're going to create this ideal version of the relationship. And we might even put it up on a pedestal at
Yeah.
times. But what is the actual reality? No, we don't want to
Yeah.
talk about the actual reality. We're just pretending it's really beautiful and creative and loving. And,
Yeah.
so it's like idolizing the relationship, putting the relationship up on a pedestal, but nobody likes to be up on a pedestal. It's high up. You might lose your balance and fall off, you know.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
it's a little bit like pretending at
Yeah.
times and having, because it's a square, it's where part of the work shows up, then having to be really mindful and aware of, wait, I projected this story or this ideal onto the relationship, but it's not really like that. So how do I come back to the reality?
Of what it is.
Yeah, it's this constant reminder of
Yeah.
stop pretending, go back to the reality and
Yeah.
build from there rather than building from this idealized version of the
Yeah.
relationship. Does that make sense to you?
Oh, just so much. And I have so many memories just flooding my eyeballs right now where I'm like
Mhm,
in this 5th house stellium of romance and fun.
mhm.
Oh my gosh, when we're good, it is just pure ecstasy.
Yeah,
Ecstasy. And we're
yeah,
going on 4 years and it's like still there at times. Of course, it's
yeah.
different, but it's
Fifth house
still,
stellium. Yeah.
yeah, where it's
Mhm.
like I just met you and I'm shaving my legs.
Yeah.
It feels like that. But then the crashes when you
Yeah.
have to realize, oh, we have children to take care of, or
Mhm,
I have a health issue. I need you to
mhm.
come with me and watch
Yeah,
my surgery and see me in a not so
yeah,
sexy hairy legs vibe.
yeah,
It's crashing down. And then, but it always goes back up. But then there are these sobering moments, especially with co-parenting, where it's like, we're in love and our relationship is perfect. And
yeah.
then here comes the call or the text, and it's like, oh shit.
Yes.
No, definitely not.
There it is. Yeah. But the thing that when I open up your composite chart, I mean, as a relationship astrologer, the relationship houses are the 5th and the 7th house, and that's where my eyes gravitate towards. Both of those are packed for you guys. You have what's called
Yeah.
stelliums, a shit ton of planets in both the relationship houses. And that's saying something,
Yeah.
you know?
It was super clue. It is. It's
Yeah.
when people give us that, I take it as a compliment. I don't know if it's like a backhanded, well, you guys are toxic. When people are like, I've never seen two people fight so hard to
Mhm.
stay together. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm learning, and the next chart I'm going to pull up is my mom's and I's. I
Yeah. Oh,
don't
I
have my
have that
great.
too.
Yeah, get that one ready because this floods into this
Uh-huh.
where I'm trying not to repeat past patterns. And I've
Mhm.
already seen, I've been married and I've been divorced right on my Saturn return.
Mhm.
And I don't want to do that again. And
Yeah.
now this one's super serious. Jael and I don't have children yet. If we're blessed to one day, that would be beautiful. But we
Mhm.
do. I have got my bonus boys. Those are
That's right.
very much our children.
Yeah.
And it's, yeah, shit just gets real. And I feel like separation from him, because of course it's been spoken about, we're human, is
Mhm.
separating from those kids too. And I've had a vision of
Oh,
like
it is.
raising them
Yeah.
alongside everyone. And it's difficult. And so
Yeah.
it's so hard to know, should I
Mhm.
stay or is
Mhm.
this run its course? And there is
And
just
that's where
truth.
transits come in, right? That's where like transits are waking up the chart and they're saying, hey,
Yes.
this is the energy coming in now, right?
What do you want to do with it? And yeah, we just had Venus in our 12th, Mars in our 12th, the sun's about to be in our 12th,
Mm-hmm.
12th house of endings for everyone listening.
Yeah.
Right now it's in our 11th house though.
What's in your 11th house right now?
It looks like I'm looking at the transits. A lot of
Yeah.
them.
So you guys are
Whatever.
coming up on your Jupiter return, on the relationships Jupiter return, which is huge for a relationship. I just pulled up my ephemeris to give you the exact dates. Are you ready?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Let me find it. Let me find it. 14 degrees of Taurus. So July, August, you're going to feel it the most. Hold on. September, October.
Nice.
Okay, so it's like all through the summer into the fall into 2024. Jupiter stays in Taurus for a long time because of
Nice.
the retrogrades. Um, and then it's going to be really strong again in March of next year. And it'll
Wow.
last through March of next year, right?
And that's my natal Jupiter too. So I guess for me, it's like double time.
Like a double time, double party.
And so what does that mean for a relationship chart? A
For a
Jupiter
relationship chart, there's a lot of growth that comes in. It can
expansion.
feel like the relationship is just expanding and up leveling, upgrading into new heights, right?
Hmm.
Jupiter wants to rise to the occasion. Usually with Jupiter, because he's one of the benefics, there's an abundant feeling of like, the sky's the limit in this relationship. We can do anything. There's opportunities, there's possibilities, there's open doorways that are like showing themselves that we didn't see before. There's solutions that we didn't see before. There's opportunities that weren't here before, before the Jupiter return. And it can feel like this breathless, exciting energy into the relationship. And Jupiter expands whatever is. So if there is fighting, if there is tension, sometimes Jupiter can expand that too.
Yeah.
Even though he usually is like the optimistic, feel good planet,
Yep.
sometimes you can feel an expansion of what actually is happening.
Is.
Most of the time, he's here to bless you.
Oh,
And so
yeah.
it's this really
Jupiter can.
sweet
And would you take into account the house it's in? So for us, it's the 11th of
11th
hopes
house.
and dreams and
Hopes and
friends.
dreams and wishes and who you guys are, who the relationship is in the community, who the relationship is, your friendship circles, your social circles,
Mhm.
other people, involved in supporting this relationship. All of that stuff gets amplified. And that's where like a lot of solutions and opportunity present themselves too,
Cool.
when the relationship is sort of taken out of just me and you and shared in a sense with community and with like groups and organizations and clubs that you guys are a part of, um, things like that. So that's coming up for you guys, which is actually really exciting.
Yeah, I get a good feeling about it. whatever's meant to, I love my Jupiter rules
Mhm.
Sagittarius.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the North Node. And so
Mhm.
for those listening, the North Node is telling in a composite chart, where should we, as astrologers, when we read composite for couples, we're like, okay,
Yeah.
where should we really kind of push them towards
Mhm.
moving
Mhm.
as a couple and pull them
Yeah.
out of that South Node, which is where they can get stuck? Do you
Yep.
see ours? Or did you
Yeah.
switch charts? North
Yeah.
Node and Pisces in that 10th house.
Yep. So let's start with the South Node. I always start with a past life to know like where you guys came from, where the relationship came from. So when we have the Pisces Virgo axis, there are themes of taking care of each other and being in service to each other. The
Mhm.
past life of the relationship being in Virgo and being in the fourth house, there were themes of, yes, doing family in past life, but taking care of each other through family dynamics, taking care of each other through on the domestic front, right? Being on the same team, working practically towards home life, family life. I'm pulling in the houses as well. Um, Taking care of one another, being in duty to one another, being obligated to one another, feeling like you're in duty to provide some sort of service together, do some sort of work together, health stuff coming in past lives too, taking care of each other in that way, perhaps. This lifetime, you're being asked to move away from the home, the fourth house, and move into the public eye, the 10th house, the relationship. You're being asked to let go of the details and the obligations and the duty and what's on the to-do list as a couple and move into the faith and the trust and the divinity and the spirituality of the relationship. And because it's on in the most public house we have, like sharing about that and sharing about, the spiritual connection of the relationship and things that are beyond this world and hard to put into words. The karmic connection you guys have, the unconditional love, the empathy,
Yeah.
those spiritual ties you guys have, right? So
Wow.
you're coming from a very practical, logical, down to earth past life where we're really taking care of each other's health and we're on the home front working hard to move into the outer world and trust the process. You don't necessarily need the plan that you needed in past lives. Let go of the plan, let go of the this idea of what the relationship should be, the perfection of it past life,
Yep.
and move into the trust and the flow.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. And it's essentially what I'm doing right now. I'm
Mhm.
in Indiana with my family, visiting, learning,
Mhm.
growing, and he is remaining in Denver and Texas. And
Mhm.
people would think, oh, you broke up because you don't live together. It's like,
Mhm.
no, I'm taking a Steph sabbatical, which I think to
Mhm.
me in our relationship may not look normal. Oh, you don't live
Yeah.
together. No, it's
Mhm.
just, it's Piscean. It's
Yeah.
mutable. It's, I'm going to go do this for a little bit. He's going to go do that for a little
Yeah.
bit. What?
Yeah.
Right. But in the past life, it's like, no, you get a mortgage, you live together.
Exactly. You did Virgo and at the home front, right?
Yeah.
And you guys also have Uranus on the descendant. So permission to not have this relationship look traditional, to not have it
Oh,
look
yeah.
a certain way according to society standards, but to do it in your very own authentic way that serves the two people involved in the relationship
Yeah.
best, right?
Oh, yes. And we have
Mhm.
so many opinions on you guys should be doing this. You should be
Yeah,
living here. You
of
should
course.
all the time. People love
Yeah.
it because we're so Gemini. People feel
Yeah.
very open to tell us these things. And we
Right.
do. We get caught up in like, oh, should we? But we're
Hmm.
just so different. We're
Yeah.
just so eccentric, different. Yeah.
Hmm.
Boom.
Hmm. Yeah.
There it is.
There it is.
Wow.
All in the chart.
All in the chart. And, it's like this is why I love astrology because it's a hall pass. Like Deb says,
Mhm.
it's a hall pass to be who
Yeah.
you are. When you start a relationship with someone, Godspeed, you're starting a game of Hunger Games. The
Yes,
world is going to chew you up and spit you out. And you really have to
you
be on each
are.
other's team and
Yeah.
seeing this blueprint of like, hey, this is a weather forecast for you guys. You
Mhm.
get to decide if you're going to put your rain boots on and dance in the rain or if you're going to work towards the good parts of it.
Yeah. And, looking at these composite charts, these relationship charts, I see the potential that the relationship has. And
Yeah.
then there's two human beings that have free will,
Yes, I
right?
was gonna ask you about that
Yes.
because I've seen some composite where
Mhm.
it's like all 12th house or like all eighth house. And I'm like, oh
Mhm.
man, how do I
Mhm.
deliver this message?
Yeah. Yeah, when you see those harder relationship charts, um, I'm a really firm believer in not like sugarcoating it, right? You
Yes.
can you can
Yes.
say, yeah, this is a relationship that really takes both people to do the work of it. This is a relationship that, wow, you guys signed up for something really big together, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
um, to offer that to the
Yeah.
couple and not sugarcoat it or candy coat
So
it.
someone asked a really good question. I did just a little episode over a month ago, and she said,
Mhm.
"Hey, like you read my composite chart, and there were a lot of placements that would indicate fated relationship, meant to be, twin flame, air
Mhm.
quotes, twin flame, meant to be, soulmate.
Yeah.
But this person was married and had
Mhm.
no interest in leaving his family to
Mhm.
start a new one with her. It was just this beautiful,
Right.
passionate,
Yeah.
spiritual love affair. And so she was like, what do I do? I
Mhm.
can feel it. The pattern app says we are
Yeah.
whimsical, meant to be
Yeah.
perfect, 10 out of 10. Our composite is beautiful,
Mhm.
but he's never going to leave his wife and 3 kids. So she's like, what does that mean? How do I?
Yeah.
This is a
Yeah.
good question.
Watch as changes come in through transits. So
Ah,
when the person says they're never going to do this or they're never going to do that, they haven't had Uranus visit their relationship chart yet. That brings in so much change. They haven't had Saturn visit their composite chart yet. And
yeah.
so things shift and change when transits hit the composite chart. And it's
Cool.
hard when you feel that beautiful, soulful connection with someone and they're unavailable
Mm-hmm.
in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
The word is currently and in the moment, and things always shift and change
Yep.
and play out. So allowing it to play out organically, allowing the trust to be there, allowing the feeling to be there that, wow, feel so connected to this person, and honoring that and being in reverence to that. And then just being tuned into the energies that are brought in through
Yeah.
transit, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
it's tricky. We're human. We have heart connections, we have desires, and we have yearnings. And sometimes it's harder to fulfill those. And
Yep.
sometimes they're handed to you. And sometimes you're asked to work for them. And sometimes they happen out of the blue overnight. Right. And it all has to do with like the transits and what's happening in the composite chart that way.
That's so I always forget to take a peek at the transit. I just go right to the meat and potatoes.
Yeah.
Why are we fighting? Is it
Yeah.
our Mars? Without
Totally.
clicking the transits button.
Yeah.
I was saying
Yeah.
that this morning. Like we have such a luxury life with the internet because I feel like people back in the day,
Oh
astrologers,
my
had
God.
to actually you pen and
Yeah.
paper
Yeah.
calculate because you guys, the composite chart, mathematically speaking, is just the halfway point
Mhm.
between your
You
and
gotta do
whoever's
math.
you got to do math. And they would do that to really draw
Yeah.
out by hand. Now we just click buttons and oh,
Now we just click buttons and totally cheat and have it handed to us. But
yes.
thank God, because I hate math.
I wouldn't be doing this. No,
I could
absolutely
not do
not.
it. I would
Absolutely.
probably have somebody doing the math for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. Thank you so much for checking out JL and I's composite chart.
Yeah.
Astrology is an art and it's so beautiful how
Mhm.
you interpret, at least for me. I just in love with you. I love your interpretation of things because, I sit here and I glance at it. I read it in class
Mhm.
and I've interpreted a lot of what you said, but not in that way. And a lot of people ask me, like, Steph, if you have the key to the kingdom with
Mhm.
astrology, wouldn't your relationships be perfect? Wouldn't your parenting
Oh,
strategies
hell
be
no.
perfect? So, in your
Yeah.
words, in your interpretation, do you ever look at your chart with your partners or your
Mhm.
children? You've got
Mhm.
2 boys. Do you
Mhm.
ever take a peek at them and say, okay, we're in conflict right now, or there's something
Yeah.
going on?
Yeah. When I remember, I do. The thing is, being an astrologer, I barely ever look at my own chart. And I usually have like my other astrology friends be like, well, you are going through yada, yada, yada. And then I'm like, oh my God, you're right. How
Yeah.
did I forget that? Because I'm so, like the work I do is I'm looking at other people's charts all day, but
Yeah.
I do study my boys' charts, and I certainly know what transits they're going through.
Yeah.
um, and then I have to remember, like, and I've pulled our composite charts and like have deep dived into those, but to put the transits on myself and my son's composite charts. I mean, I need to do that. I need to refresh that. And you know what else I use in relationship too is the progressed moon, which I'm obsessed with. To know your partner's progressed moon is to have such allowance and consideration and compassion for who they are in that moment, you
I'm
know?
so glad you brought that up. And I think
Mhm.
JL and I got lucky with that because we have twin Scorpio moons. Him and I both
Yeah.
have that. And so our progressed moons are only like 6 months behind each other.
Wow.
He's entering a Pisces progressed moon as we speak. And then September, I enter mine. And so we're
Oh
really
my God.
connected on that. It's just the
Yeah.
houses. The houses
Yeah.
are,
The houses are different.
yeah.
And so that's fascinating to me to know the rhythm of the progressed moon between you and your partner. So for you guys, for instance, he's 6 months ahead of you, but you're going to catch up and you guys are in the same cycle all the time,
All the time.
right?
Isn't
There's
that
other
wild?
partners who are progressed moons are constantly squaring each other. They will forever square each other.
Yep.
There's other partners whose progressed moons will forever sextile each other,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Because they all shift and move at the same time. And that's really interesting to know. You know, it's hard
Very much so.
if you find a person and your progressed moons will forever square one another.
Yeah.
That's hard.
Oh, yeah.
And it's okay that it's hard, is the thing, right?
Astrology is not something you believe, it's something you
Mhm,
experience. And I
mhm,
forgot to glance at that, but when I told him like, hey, we got to get out of this lease, I got to go take a step sabbatical,
mhm.
as soon as we kind of separated, not literally but physically separated,
Yeah.
is when his progressed moon switched into Pisces 7th house.
Wow.
Right.
Interesting. Yes. Very
Yes.
interesting.
And his thoughts are always swirling around like, what's next for our relationship? What's
Mhm,
going on with our connection? Let's go to
mhm,
therapy together. Let's buy
mhm.
a house together.
Yeah.
He's always in that mindset. And my progressed moon in Pisces is about to enter the 10th house.
Uh-huh.
And so the houses are kind of squaring there because I'm like, yeah, okay, JL, like I want to open an astrology store. I got to go talk to
Yeah.
some.
Yeah. That's right. Um, and that's interesting. I'm just thinking about you and I. So your progressed moon is moving into Pisces.
Yeah.
My progressed moon is in Leo, but it's in the 12th house. And so I also have that Piscean flavor. So you and I will forever be linked with our progressed moon cycles by your sign in my house. So when you move into Aries,
You'll be in
my
the
progressed
first.
moon will be in the first house.
Whoa.
And that's
Which
so
is
sweet.
I know. That's why we're
Yeah.
always, that's why everything you share on your stories, I'm cracking up. I think it's
Yeah.
so funny. I love everything you love.
That's hilarious. You
Yeah.
told me not too long ago that how did you put it? You just want to live in a cabin by yourself and isolate. And
Yes.
I have never resonated more with anything in my whole goddamn life because my progressed moon's in the 12th house. I'm like, fuck yeah. Let me be
Yes.
on the other side of that mountain from you in my own cabin.
Yeah. And we'll meet up
You
for
know,
breakfast and then separate to go be alone.
totally.
Get our hour of socialization and then
Yes.
just walkie talkie me if you need me.
Yes, exactly. It's so true. And so to
Yeah.
know the progressed moon of your partner or your child or your family member or your dog. I mean, it just allows for, okay, they won't shut the fuck up because their progressed
Yes.
moon is in Gemini.
Yes.
And I might be in
Yes.
Pisces and I just want stillness, but they won't stop talking. And now I
Yes.
know why they won't stop talking. And now I can have compassion for them and I can gracefully remove myself if I need silence too.
Truly. I
You
am
know?
so glad you brought that up because I
Mhm.
forgot too, but that is the number one thing I look at
Yeah.
in my relationship readings and
Yeah.
also for myself is okay, what series is this? If someone's about to enter a progressed moon in Scorpio, I send them a link to BetterHelp with a discount code.
There you go. There you go. Yeah. And here's my therapist's number
Yeah.
because you'll be needing them in a little while.
We kid. I actually like my progressed moon in Scorpio, but maybe it's because I felt at home.
Probably. You feel so
Yeah.
at home in that.
Yeah.
Progressed moon Scorpio because your natal moon lives there,
Yeah. So
right?
I was like, bring it on. I got a divorce during my progressed moon Sagittarius,
Uh-huh.
breaking
You
free,
needed that
freedom.
freedom. Yeah.
Travel, living on the road again. I
Yeah.
met JL when my progressed moon was in Capricorn, and he has
Mhm.
such masculine entrepreneur energy that when I first met him as a friend, I was like, oh, I need to
Yeah.
be on my best behavior. I need to
Yeah.
prove that I'm building something good.
Yeah. I'm actually creating a course with Tara from Luminary Parenting.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know Tara, right?
Yes. Yeah.
We're creating a progressed moon course. I'm going to do it from the perspective of relationship. She's going to do it from the perspective of parenting. It's going to be so juicy.
When is that coming out?
We're just in the talks of it.
Oh,
Maybe like later this summer, perhaps.
well, is
Depending
there a
on
wait list? Can I join right now?
You are always welcome. You are always at
Oh,
the top of my wait list.
oh,
Whether you put your name
yeah.
there or not, I
Yes.
put your name there. But that's going to be fascinating because like you're in your progressed moon in Aquarius. You're at the end of it right now.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
In the
And
ninth
so
house.
what do you need as being in your progressed moon in Aquarius? And what do you give as being in your progressed moon in Aquarius in relationship, right?
Yeah.
So I would go over that and she'll go over like, if your child is in their progressed moon in Aquarius, how do you best parent them and dance with them?
I would even add your parents because it seems like a lot of us are parenting our parents right now.
Yeah.
So
That's
what is their progressed moon? And
yes.
yeah, wow. My progressed moon has been going through the ninth house of my beliefs and the
Mhm.
sign of Aquarius. And I had just told you earlier, like, I don't know if I want to do Lightworkers Lounge anymore. I
Yeah.
don't resonate with that spiritual
Yeah.
belief of
Yeah.
that twin flame stuff anymore. I still love it. I'll
Mhm.
forever ask the universe to show me an owl if I should do something.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I don't know if I want to teach it. I don't want to, if I want to be known as the queen of light workers. And
Mhm.
would you say that's big Aquarius ninth house energy?
Huge Aquarius, huge ninth house. I mean, those are both signs of freedom,
Yeah.
being free of anything that are commitments, anything that ties us down. And then
Yeah.
Aquarius is like detaching and letting
Yeah.
go and being free.
Yeah.
Um, and Sag is always thinking about the next adventure, the next big thing,
Yeah.
the next adventure, the next big thing. Um, and allowing freedom in that, right? Allowing yourself to flow and find as we constantly evolve and change what best suits us in our current moment.
Yeah. Isn't
Very
Pisces in the 10th house that progressed moon? Isn't that kind of like a dichotomy? Because Pisces is like, I just want to float, smoke weed, daydream. But that 10th
Mhm.
house is like, yeah, well, make it your career.
Yeah.
So we roll
Yeah.
joints for a living.
Yeah, absolutely. And yet they sextile one another, those energies, and yet they're earth and water, and they know how to build together. So Pisces dreams the dream, and then Capricorn says, and this is what we need to do to make all those dreams become a reality.
And I literally just told you before the call, like I'm thinking of cutting off a lot of projects right now that people
Mhm,
will be shocked about
mhm.
because I want to build something totally different that I've been dreaming about.
Yeah, it's all those dreams.
Woo!
Yeah, all those dreams, all those heart wishes, all those things that feel so far-fetched off in Pisces realm and
Yeah.
universe, like Capricorn says, this is the practical, actual steps we need to take to pull that dream down onto the earth realm and make it a reality.
Oh, so I am pumped for this. And the
You're
moon's going to be hitting my midheaven, my MC career line.
Mhm. That's so cool. So you have your progress moon that's going to hit your midheaven. I have Jupiter coming to visit my midheaven in Taurus up there. So we'll see
Hashtag
what happens.
blessed. Blessed. Well,
Yeah.
because you're the greatest astrology teacher alive. Truly. I believe that. You're just
Yeah.
like, you're building an empire because you're real, you're soft, you're badass, but you're nurturing. Like, this is what
Keep
people,
going, keep going.
yeah, you're like, come on now, we're
Progress
recording
moon
this.
and Leo.
Yes,
That's
you're
really kind
so,
of you to
you've
say.
got this now. You probably don't realize it because, I kind of teach now with large groups and you're just
Yeah.
so focused on the material and making sure
Yeah.
everything's organized that you don't see it. But as one of your students, I get to watch and I'm like, wow, what a gift this
Oh.
woman has. Whoa. It's just, you guys listening to this, if you want to learn astrology, do check out, what's your Instagram name?
It's my first and last name. It's
Yep.
Malika_Semper_astrology.
Yeah. And we'll put you in the show notes and everywhere. And you always, I say you teach courses like once a month. Yeah.
I do. I do.
You're
My
on
next one,
fire.
my next one coming up is my Synastry series in
The
June.
best. That's the one that kicked it off for me. I think I've taken it twice now.
Yeah.
I absolutely love that synastry,
Yeah.
and it really helps,
You're welcome.
and people, for you guys listening who are thinking, yeah, well, listen, you guys are astrologers, you do this for a living. Yes, of course. And if
Mhm.
you want to do this for a living, her courses can definitely help you with that. But if you
Yeah.
just want more flow and understanding, and
Mhm.
you can understand why people behave the way they do, the amount of healing
Yeah.
and letting go
Yeah.
that comes from that. And so the
Absolutely.
investment in your courses have paid dividends in my emotional well-being.
Oh, Steph.
Truly,
Yeah.
truly. And
Yeah.
so for those listening, just check her out, go find her. She's wonderful and knows her shit.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. And I know we didn't look at my mom's chart, but
We
the
can do that
progressed ones are
privately,
more.
you and I.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
But it resonates a lot. And I'm sure in my mom and I's composite, you would find like she came here to show you what not to do in relationships.
Yes. Someone,
Bless my mama, but she showed me a
that's right.
lot. But this is the type of things you can do with both a private reading with Malika, but also in her courses. And
Yeah.
what I love about your courses is that you teach like this, but you
Mhm.
pull up everyone's charts. Everybody sends you their
Yeah.
charts, and you
Mhm.
surprise us with, oh, okay, we're talking about Scorpio moon. Steph,
Yeah.
share with us, what
Yeah.
has your experience been with this? And so it's therapeutic. It
Mhm.
feels like a women's circle because it's the vast majority is women. And
Yep.
just to see people explain or hear how they've experienced certain placements in their chart, you
Mhm.
get it. It clicks.
It's so helpful because I can teach this
Yeah.
stuff all day long. We can have these ideas of what certain things mean, but until we hear somebody's story of who actually lived it, that's where the real teaching lies. And
Yeah.
then I become the student and I'm like, teach me, tell me. I have an
Yes.
idea, I have a theory of what this might feel like, but
Yeah.
now you teach me what you actually lived through with this
Yes.
experience, right?
Yeah. That's
Mhm.
another thing I love about you is that you are so open where you're like, I'm still the student with you guys.
I will
I'm reading it.
forever be a student.
What are you, a Sagittarius?
Yeah. That's right. Yeah, I will forever be a student, 4 planets in Sag. Yeah.
Oh, I tell everyone all the time, my dream job is to retire and become a professor at like the University of Bozeman in Montana, have no phone, no social media, just teach
Mhm,
astrology in a big stadium
mhm,
at a university, ride my
mhm.
bike home and lock myself away as a hobbit.
That sounds like you keep coming up with these, like, amazing little scenarios where I'm like, "I want that too." Can I do
Teach
that
people how
too?
to make sourdough in my mountain cabin and then send them home before 8 p.m.
Yes, it's perfect. It's so perfect.
I know. So, Malika, thank you so much for coming on
Yes,
Lightworkers Lounge and letting
yeah,
people see what a reading is like and teaching us
sure.
how to find more flow and compassion. Because relationships, if you don't have healthy ones in your life, it affects everything, your diet, your health,
Yeah,
your friends, your career. It affects
mhm,
everything. And
yeah,
so, relationship astrology truly, this is just us talking with our moon conjunct Venus, but
yes.
it really is so important.
Mhm, I agree. So, so important.
Yeah.
And I can show you the signatures and the tools just to know how to maneuver,
Yeah.
those so many dynamics of relationships that can show up and to
Yeah.
just create some awareness and ease and most
Yeah.
of all understanding around
Yes.
what you signed up for with that particular person.
Ex- That's the
Yeah,
bar right there.
that's it.
Malika, thank you so much. If you guys want to
Thank
find
you,
her, she's
Steph.
on Instagram. Her
Mhm.
website will be in the show notes. We'll tag her everywhere. Go say hi, check her out, invest in one of her courses. You will not regret it. And I'll probably be in there.
Woo! Thank you,
Yay.
Steph.
You're welcome.